Someone once said truth is like poetry, and most people freaking hate poetry. What's a truth you needed here but didn't want to? One of my good friends a few years ago said to me, your biggest personality flaw is that you perceive anyone disagreeing with you as a personal attack. My mother is a very angry person and turned any slight disagreement into a big issue. I spent years unlearning that one. You have my sympathy. My parents, and then me, were a lot like this. So much work involved in undoing that one. Many years I could have been learning instead of alienating people. I was in the process of going through a breakup while I worked my first job at a grocery store. I was freaking out while my co-workers tried comforting me. My ex was stringing me along a bit and said she was going to think about our relationship for a week and decide if we were going to stay a thing. One co-worker says to me, look, she's freaking someone else. Dude, you're a good guy. I don't want you hurt, but you need to realize she isn't coming back. You can and will do better. Crap is gonna suck for now, but don't kid yourself about her coming back. He got crap for it from my other co-workers, but he was right. He doesn't know it, but what he said to me did strike a chord, in a good way, and I appreciate him for it. My first and only breakup thus far in life was made a million times worse because I clung on to hope that we might just get back together. That hope is the worst part about the breakup in my opinion. I think it gets way easier when you decide accept that you aren't getting them back. Good on him and good on you. What a man does has nothing to do with you. What someone else does has nothing to do with me. I can't control anyone's actions or feelings but my own. No matter how much control I could want to have over how something or any situation plays out, I can only count the probable outcomes of my own causes. Essentially, that is one I still struggle with. Once, back when I was in the Navy, we had just gotten a new division officer, Devo. He was pretty young and fresh, but he had a good head on his shoulders. Spent the first couple days sitting down and getting to know everyone individually, as well as just sitting back and listening to us interact. A few days in, it's my turn and I go into the office to talk with him. And I do. Because you do these things. And we talk about the basics at first. How long have you been in? What was your last command like? What changes would you make? What good things are already happening? Stuff like that. Eventually he shifts gears and he turns to face me with that dad look on his face. And Ivo says, listen, Tkrspest, I've been noticing something about you. You're good for morale. You want people to laugh. It comes naturally to you. But everything you do to try and get those laughs is self-deprecating. You're in the habit of putting yourself down to bring other people up. And that's not a healthy way to live. Now, I can't force you, but I'd just honestly like you to say something positive about yourself. Something you like about yourself. And it hit me right then that I couldn't. I genuinely couldn't bring something to mind that I liked about me. Now, unbeknownst to him, I was in something of a rut at the time. I was in a bad place mentally and I'd never honestly even put effort into my mental well-being before. But he could clearly see that something was wrong. So after a few moments of silence, he slaps his hands on his knees and says, well, that's just something I want you to think on. I'm really looking forward to working with you. I doubt he'll read this, and it's probably for the best that he doesn't because I say a lot of weird crap on this account. But he really helped me turn my life around there. With a couple stumbles along the way, that helped me finally reach out to get medical help and turn my undiagnosed depression into diagnosed dysthymia, or persistent depressive disorder. I talked to a therapist and got on medication and learned a lot of coping techniques that help me when things start to spiral. And I've fallen back a bit, and I'm working on getting started again on those first two, but I at least have the knowledge now to recognize that it's not who I am. It's something that I'll live with, and that I can strive to live without. That's awesome. I'm glad you are able to help yourself now because someone important said knowing is half the battle also. Lord knows the military could do with more members like your Devo. If you mess with a turd, you are going to get crap on you. It doesn't matter if you poke it with a stick or wear gloves, you will still somehow get it on you. This was in reference to personal relationships with crappy people. LOL, I was friends with a girl my brother didn't like. She eventually showed her true colors and he said if you hang out with poo poo you gonna smell like poo poo. Had a guy I was dating call me out on being toxic, that I wasn't as hot or as much of a catch as I thought I was, and that I needed to actually get help rather than bottle up all my anger and issues. So yeah, I was a morbidly obese unemployed person with anger issues who felt like I was always the victim and demanded the world to repay me. I got my crap together, but my god, did I not want to hear that at all. There is nothing noble in being superior to your fellow man. True nobility is in being superior to your former self. Ernest Hemingway. My dad told me that I'll never be beautiful like a model, and while that was perhaps cruel to say to a teenager, my interpretation of it was that I should just be happy with the face I've got, and I am. Had the same thing from my nan, some 18 years ago. Her exact words were, "Thank goodness that you've got brains, because you certainly haven't got looks." I was crushed all those years ago, but while tactless, I know what she was trying to say. The elderly are charmers, sometimes. Smiles. That my then girlfriend was abusive, destroying me, didn't love me, and it needed to finish before it was too late. I still ignored my therapist, stopped going, best friend and my family for a further year, and it nearly killed me, because I was obsessed over her. It wasn't even love at that point. That's rough. Really hoping you're doing better now, . I used to complain to my ex about how I had gained weight and my shirts were too tight. Nothing fit right. She said, "So are you going to keep complaining or do something about it?" Felt harsh, but it was right. Stop bitching about problems and fix them. My wife and I have the same problem. Complain about weight gain, call each other out, then do nothing. That I was controlling, narcissistic and threatening to my ex-wife. Nothing can ever make right the abuse I put her through, and while I hope I can still someday be a hero of some story and do some good, I accept that our story is over and I will always be its villain. My mental health, my motivations and my not recalling a lot of what I did do not excuse my actions. I am abusive. Had a boss totally call me out on my self-sabotaging behavior. Really forced me to continue to look at and work on the person I am. My parents told me they had literally watched me become more consistently sad and unhealthy during my 3-year relationship with a girl they had never really liked. They were right. They never gave her the proper chance to prove herself, but I sure did, and she only got worse over time. I had to be reminded how miserable I was to realize that I am not a therapist and that girl needed to grow up and handle her own emotions. Now this is 100% describing my time right now. RGs. Once my mom dies, I'll have nothing to keep me from making much more self-destructive life choices. I'm only putting up a facade for her. That in order to be loved you need to change yourself. Don't deprive yourself and others by refusing to grow as a person and work out the issues that are holding you back. Be true to yourself, but make yourself worth it. You're an alcoholic. I heard it from this disheveled overweight guy. He was crying and I didn't recognize him. He was looking at me in the mirror. Sober and life is now wonderful. Have a beautiful day. Freaking respect for pulling through with improving your life. I wish you good health for the rest of it, bro. For years, I thought I was in love with someone. I still don't know what happened, but about a month ago I realized I'm just not in love with them. I think it was just more I was in love with what they represented to me, which was a time and a place that I immensely miss. At some point I realized that there's nothing actually about them that I'm in love with, and I barely even knew anything about them. I'm happy you were able to learn this before it was too late, unlike Gatsby. The book isn't gonna write itself. Or, Reddit doesn't count as writing practice, it's procrastination. Or, you're so self-critical of your work that you'd rather talk yourself out of producing quality content than let another person have the chance to dislike it. Even if they did like it, you'd assume they are just flattering you out of pity. Take your pick. It's not funny if it's hurtful. I was raised in a family where critical sarcasm was our way of joking with one another. It took me forever to learn that dragging people through their embarrassing moments and uncontrollable failings is not actually funny. I suspect we're from the same family. My stepdad made a complete butt of himself at a family gathering and brought up the fact that I've gained a ton of weight during the pandemic. Roughly 20-30 pounds I think. I was a former pro kickboxer standing at 6'2" and, formerly, weighing around 165-170 pounds. I was lean, fast and athletic, Now, I work in IT and sit at a desk all day. I admittedly eat poorly and rarely have the motivation to get my gutted butt back in the gym. Last time I weighed myself, I was 218. His comment made me really upset, which is rare for me to take people's words to heart, but goddammit he's right. I'm a shadow of my former self. No one will like you. If you force them, they won't like you. If you don't try, they'll only like you. If you think you're a person with liking. I spend too much time worrying about what other people are doing when it doesn't affect me at all. Had a friend call this out to me a while back. I'd complain about other people at work quite often, even if what they're doing isn't affecting my work. He's like, I'll listen to it once, but if it keeps coming up I'm going to change the subject. My sister basically yelled me about 3 months after my husband left me. Get off your butt and get your head on and start living your life. He left you but your kids need you now. Hated her for a few days but knew she was right. That was 12 years ago. Took me 6 years to finally get all my act together, but I grew up and have been at my job for 6 years. Love working, doing what I do and providing a stable home for my kids. That I was pushing the internal pressure I put on myself out onto others and holding them to too high standards. It stung a little, but it's helping me to slowly let go of that pressure on myself and others. It's true what they say, you can't love anyone else until you love yourself. Your internal world will always mirror outwards. I'm actually not that sympathetic and likable like I thought I am. Somebody told me this and it hurt, but it also helped me developing self-awareness. Also, I learned to approach people slightly different than before. That voice is so annoying. You're 9 years old now, said my mother when I had the same exact voice from when I was baby for 9 years. So I forced myself to develop a voice. I don't have a single resting voice, just a bunch of default options. And now I'm a voice actor. When I was like 7 I would sing really loud in the shower because I thought I was a good singer, and then one day my older brother told me that I sounded really bad. LOL, it's okay. It didn't hurt my feelings and I still sing in the shower. I just thought it was funny, but I appreciate the concern. She said to listen, a truth she'd speak. I leaned in close. My interest peaked. You don't earn cash, or cook, or clean. I stayed real quiet. Her words, so mean. You play on computer, you live with mom, all day long. Cheatus you nom. I'm leaving you, and Uber she dialed. That day I learned, I am man-child. This is poetry that most people like. Does it count if you tell it to yourself? I told myself I have to work on myself because of who I am. Judge me all you want, but I am gonna work on them. Here's some of my flaws. Narcissistic, toxic, and just an awful friend. Once I realized that, I am trying to find a therapist that I can spill everything out to and find a way to get better at being myself. Remember, it's better to find a good therapist quickly than it is to wait for the perfect therapist. And if a therapist isn't good for you, you can switch. Every therapist is different. Some people are meant to be alone. Maybe you're one of them. Not easy to hear from the woman you love who used to love you, but it was true. Here's a good one. What you see is what you get, or, rephrased, you know who they are by how they come at you. Don't count on anyone's behavior getting better. Don't assume that you probably read the situation wrong. Don't ever assume that the person has a heart of gold and they just struggle to show it. They're a disrespectful butthole who is going to keep pushing your buttons because they know they can get away with it. Nobody is going to help you when you don't even try to help yourself. Stop feeling sorry for yourself and actually do something about the crap making you miserable instead of waiting for something to happen or someone else to fix your life for you. Nothing ever happens if you don't make it happen. You're just coming off as a lazy complainer. If you want to be good at something, you have to be very disciplined. Be a student of the thing you're trying to be good at, and practice all the things other people don't want to. Don't let toxic people live rent-free in your head, and if someone has control of your emotions, you've given them all your power. My dad noticed how my personality changed based on what friends I was hanging out with. I was part of 3 cliques in high school. Problem was none of them got along. Jocks, brains, and losers. Burnout skids. My dad told me to consider who made me happy, not who I was expected by others to be friends with. I was smart and my family was athletic. I was so caught up in everyone liking me that I lost me. The only people I still talk to 20 years later are the losers because we were all genuine with each other and didn't have to pretend to fit in. My uncle told me that I care way too much about everyone else and their perception of me and that I was going to keep destroying myself inside if I didn't learn to love myself. At the time it was rough and he told it in that boomer way where it sounds like an insult, lol. He was right though. Looking back, I was way more worried about making everyone else happy than I was worrying about myself. I couldn't quit drinking and smoking at the time because I was only trying to make others happy, not because I wanted to or because I knew it was best for me. So when I'd relapse, I was angry at myself because I was letting them down. This applies to a bunch of other stuff, but yeah, that was a big one. I fixed my life up a lot because I started making decisions based on what I needed. I started doing things that made me happy instead of what made others happy for me. Those overlapped a bunch too. But I was still making sure to change my thought process to be doing it for myself, if that makes any sense. I guess I used to think that that made me selfish. If you relate to that, it freaking doesn't. Treat yourself well. I am not very confident and I put myself down a lot to other people, especially at work. I had someone who works in my building say, "You are really hard on yourself. You are such a nice person. You should be nice to yourself." It embarrassed me terribly, but really made me think and try to adjust my attitude about myself. Once, after a big tantrum, I tried to hug my middle school teacher to make up. She asked, "Why do I have to hug you? You behaved badly." I didn't try that again. What my partner was really up to during his 9 months paternity leave while I was burned out from being up 5-6 times a night, every night, for over 8 months, getting up himself less than 1% of the time while I was suffering physically and mentally, and trying to take our son out once a week to fun places when I could summon the energy while my partner stayed home making no effort with housework whatsoever, and essentially just sat back and had fun. It opened my eyes up to a lot of other behavior over the years. It had been put down to exhaustion from work, or just losing track of time, but I now know what sort of person he really is, and I strongly suspect that his actions, though not intentional, have significantly added to my depression and current mental state. It is good in a way, as though I will probably never fully recover. At least I know why I am so broken now. No matter how much you like someone, you can't force them to like you back. Seems obvious now, but teenage me had some real limerence issues. Was actually told I was too nice for this world, and that people take advantage of that. It was nice to hear, but also made me wary of people now. Yeah, I'm pretty naive when it comes to people and ulterior motives. That girl I thought I was gonna marry 12 years ago this month, she and her family won't be good for ya. It didn't come out quite like that, and there are times I put the nostalgia glasses on and think it could have been nice, but when I think about the reality of it, she and her family wouldn't have been good for me. I didn't choose to be born to my mother and my father, my family, my family's religion, my nation or its creed. There are no allegiances made by the purely accidental circumstances of birth. I can't choose otherwise. Trans people are people. Gay, straight, frickin' whatever, we're all just people. And some people are crap. Your sexual orientation shouldn't have you put on a pedestal where any criticism is phobic. No, Kevin, I don't dislike you because I'm homophobic. I dislike you because you're rude and late all the time. Yup, being in a minority group doesn't, or shouldn't, protect you from legitimate criticism. Was at a party and was drunk and started crying over someone I had a crush on who brought their boyfriend. Locked myself in a room when a manager I had who came to the party too knocked on the door. I let her in and we talked a little. The only thing my drunk brain remember from that conversation was her saying, "I'm not going to hold your hand and tell you everything is going to be okay, cause it's not. You need to grow up." You knew she was with someone. What did you expect? I was so used to people just telling me what I wanted to hear. It's been 18 years since that conversation and I still think about it when things don't go my way and I want to get mad about it. People who truly want happiness will stop at nothing to obtain it. Doesn't mean don't just stop being sad. Change. Go to therapy. Learn something new. Move. IDKIDC. If you want to be happy, you can figure it out. You've already fricked up too many times with this relationship to be able to turn it around. Your interactions with them have caused you more misery than joy for a long time now. You need to let them go. The world isn't fair. It's a race for the top and those at the bottom get crushed. That's a harsh truth I wish wasn't true, but it is. If you are new to the channel, you can subscribe. I publish new videos every day. Until then, check another video. Bye for now.